June 19, 1944, Philippine Sea. Task Force 58 steams 55 miles west of Saipan. F6F Hellcats launch from 15 American carriers into crystalline Pacific skies. Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa commands the Imperial Japanese Navy's first mobile fleet, 9 carriers carrying roughly 450 aircraft toward what he believes will be the decisive battle. Instead, he sails directly into the systematic destruction of Japanese naval aviation. At 0830 hours, Ozawa launches his first strike wave from carriers Taiho, Shokaku, and Zuikaku. 69 aircraft climb toward American positions about 300 miles to the east. The formation includes 45 Mitsubishi A6M5 Zero fighters, 16 Yokosuka D4Y Judy dive bombers, and 8 Nakajima B6N Jill torpedo bombers. Flight leader Lieutenant Commander Isamu Takahashi guides the attack from his Zero cockpit, unaware that American radar has been tracking his formation since takeoff. The Japanese pilots represent what remains of Imperial Navy aviation after 3 years of devastating losses. Most carry fewer than 200 flight hours compared to the 500-hour veterans lost at Midway and Guadalcanal. Takahashi himself graduated from flight training only 8 months prior. His wingmen average 22 years old with minimal carrier experience. They fly aircraft designed in 1940 against opponents equipped with technology perfected through 2 years of combat evolution. Lieutenant Junior Grade Alexander Vrashu banks his F6F Hellcat into a climbing turn 25,000 feet above the Philippine Sea. Fighting Squadron VF-16 off USS Lexington maintains combat air patrol station as radar operators vector well over 200 Hellcats toward the incoming Japanese strike. Vrashu's aircraft weighs about 12,000 pounds fully loaded, powered by a 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R-2800 double Wasp engine. 650 caliber Browning machine guns in his wings carry 2,400 rounds of armor-piercing incendiary ammunition. The technological disparity becomes apparent as the formations close. Takahashi's A6M5 Zero weighs roughly 6,000 pounds with a 1,130 horsepower Nakajima Sakare engine. 2 20mm cannons and 2 77mm machine guns provide armament with limited ammunition. Later Zero models increased cannon capacity over the early 60-round drums, but endurance remained short. The Zero achieves superior maneuverability through weight reduction that eliminates pilot armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and structural redundancy. These compromises prove fatal against American fighters designed for survivability rather than agility. Combat air patrol fighters intercept the Japanese formation 55 miles from Task Force 58. The engagement reveals fundamental changes in Pacific air warfare since the Zero's early dominance. American pilots employ boom and zoom tactics that exploit the Hellcat's superior speed and diving capability. They refuse to engage in turning dogfights where the Zero retains advantage. Instead, Hellcat pilots dive from altitude, fire short bursts, then climb away using superior power-to-weight ratios. Ensign Hiroshi Yamamoto flies wing position in the second section of Takahashi's formation. This represents his 14th combat mission since completing advanced training. His logbook records barely over 150 total flight hours compared to Vrashu, already an ace with extensive combat time. As American fighters dive through the Japanese formation, Yamamoto attempts a defensive turn that would have succeeded against early war F4F Wildcats. The maneuver fails against Hellcats that maintain energy advantage through disciplined attack profiles. The Fighter Direction Center aboard USS Lexington vectors additional Hellcat squadrons. The Hellcat force employs coordinated tactics that had been difficult to execute in 1942 to 1943 when American fighters often operated independently. Multiple squadrons attack from different altitudes simultaneously. High-altitude fighters engage Zero escorts while medium-altitude units concentrate on dive bombers and torpedo planes. Low-altitude fighters intercept any aircraft breaking through upper levels. The systematic nature of American tactics shocks Japanese survivors. Yamamoto watches 6 Hellcats coordinate an attack on his section leader's Judy dive bomber. The Americans approach from multiple vectors, timing their gun runs to deny escape routes. 1 Hellcat attacks from port quarter, forcing the Judy to bank right into a second fighter's gun sight. The bomber explodes after 8 seconds of concentrated 50 caliber fire. Yamamoto counts muzzle flashes from 6 different positions during the engagement. Fighter Squadron VF-16's combat doctrine reflects lessons learned from 2 years of Pacific fighting. Pilots receive specific instructions to maintain formation integrity and energy advantage over individual kill opportunities. The squadron practices coordinated attacks where multiple aircraft engage single targets to ensure destruction while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. This tactical evolution transforms aerial combat from individual dueling to systematic elimination of opposing forces. Lieutenant Vreeshu identifies 6 D4Y Judy dive bombers flying in formation at 18,000 feet. His squadron leader assigns the target to Vreeshu's section while other flights engage Zero escorts. Vreeshu approaches the enemy formation from 2,000 feet above and 45 degrees off their starboard quarter. His Hellcat dives at about 350 miles per hour as the Judas maintain formation speed of roughly 240 miles per hour. The closing rate provides optimal firing opportunities while minimizing exposure time to defensive fire. The engagement demonstrates the Hellcat's superiority as a gun platform. Vreeshu's first target attempts evasive action as 650 caliber streams converge on its engine compartment. The Judy's aluminum construction provides no protection against armor-piercing incendiary rounds that penetrate from nose to tail. The bomber catches fire and enters an uncontrollable spin toward the ocean. Vreeshu transitions to his second target without losing formation position or airspeed. Ensign Yamamoto observes the systematic destruction of his strike force from his Zero cockpit. American fighters demonstrate tactical coordination that overwhelms individual Japanese aircraft regardless of pilot skill. Each enemy attack involves multiple aircraft operating in precise timing. Japanese pilots find themselves engaged by 2 or 3 Hellcats simultaneously while additional American fighters position for follow-up attacks. The numerical disadvantage compounds as Japanese losses accumulate without corresponding American casualties. The first wave's destruction takes 18 minutes from initial contact to final aircraft splash. Takahashi's formation of 69 aircraft suffers 42 total losses, including 34 fighters shot down in air-to-air combat. American pilots claim 43 confirmed kills while losing only 2 Hellcats to defensive fire. The 20-to-1 kill ratio reflects technological, tactical, and training advantages that render Japanese aviation obsolete by 1944 standards. Vice Admiral Ozawa receives fragmentary reports from surviving pilots as his second strike wave launches at 0956 hours. The second formation includes 128 aircraft from all available carriers. The leader drives 53 Zero fighters, 27 Judy dive bombers, and 48 Jill torpedo bombers toward the American fleet. Radio communications indicate heavy losses from the first wave, but Ozawa lacks detailed information about American defensive capabilities. Lieutenant Vreeshu lands aboard USS Lexington at 1,045 hours after expending all ammunition in the first engagement. His personal score includes 6 enemy aircraft destroyed in 8 minutes of combat using only 360 rounds of ammunition. Flight deck crews refuel and rearm his Hellcat for a second sortie as radar operators track the incoming second wave. The rapid turnaround demonstrates American logistical superiority that enables sustained operations throughout extended battles. The second wave encounters an even more devastating reception as American defenders coordinate their response based on first wave experience. Fighter directors position hundreds of Hellcats in layered defense from roughly 10,000 to 25,000 feet altitude. Each altitude level contains multiple squadrons deployed in overlapping combat air patrol sectors. Japanese formations face continuous fighter interception throughout their approach to American ships. The Japanese attempt to penetrate American defenses using dispersed attack formations that divide enemy fighters among multiple targets. The tactic can succeed against limited opposition but fails when confronting coordinated fighter defense. American squadrons maintain communications throughout the engagement, sharing tactical information and target assignments. Individual Hellcat sections attack designated Japanese formations while other units provide cover and pursuit functions. The technological gap becomes most apparent during sustained combat maneuvering. Japanese pilots exhaust their limited ammunition supplies during defensive engagements while American fighters retain substantial reserves. Zero fighters carried relatively little cannon ammunition compared to the Hellcats' 50 caliber belts with roughly 400 rounds per gun. Japanese pilots must achieve near-perfect accuracy during brief firing opportunities while Americans can engage multiple targets with sustained bursts. Ensign Kenji Nakamura flies a D4Y Judy in the second wave toward Task Force 58. His dive bomber carries one 551-pound bomb for attacks against American carriers. Navigation equipment indicates the target area lies 40 miles ahead when Hellcats from VF-2 intercept his section. The American fighters approach from high altitude using energy tactics that prevent effective Japanese response. Nakamura attempts defensive maneuvers that compromise his bomb run approach speed and accuracy. The Hellcat pilots employ specific anti-bomber tactics developed through combat experience. They target engines and fuel systems with concentrated fire rather than attempting to destroy entire aircraft with scattered hits. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds penetrate Japanese bomber construction and ignite fuel vapors in unprotected tanks. Most Japanese bombers explode rather than crash, eliminating any possibility of emergency landing or pilot survival. Fighter Squadron VF-15 off USS Essex engages the main body of the second wave formation at 1,130 hours. 12 Hellcats make coordinated attacks against Zero fighters and Judy dive bombers. The Americans divide into 3 4-plane divisions that attack from different vectors simultaneously. Japanese pilots find themselves outnumbered locally despite overall force parity due to superior American tactical coordination. The second wave suffers even heavier losses than the first as American defenses reach peak effectiveness. Of the 128 aircraft dispatched, about 100 failed to return, 97 confirmed destroyed plus additional probables and damaged. American losses total 6 Hellcats shot down with 4 pilots recovered. The kill ratio exceeds 16-1 as Japanese formations disintegrate under coordinated fighter attack. Most surviving aircraft abandon their missions and return to carriers without engaging American ships. Admiral Ozawa launches his third strike wave at 1,000 hours despite mounting evidence of American air superiority. 47 aircraft from Carrier Division 2 include 15 Zero fighters, 15 bomb-carrying Zeros, and 7 Jill torpedo bombers plus 10 additional aircraft. The reduced formation reflects depleted squadron strength after 2 previous engagements. Remaining pilots display visible stress from combat losses and awareness of American defensive capabilities. The third wave becomes lost during its approach flight due to navigation errors compounded by combat pressure. Japanese formations break into scattered elements that arrive over American positions at different times and altitudes. This tactical dispersion prevents coordinated attacks while enabling American fighters to engage isolated enemy aircraft individually. The piecemeal Japanese attacks allow systematic destruction without overwhelming any defensive sector. Lieutenant Vreeshu launches for his second sortie of the day as the third wave approaches Task Force 58. His Hellcat carries full ammunition and fuel loads despite previous combat damage to his port wing section. The aircraft's rugged construction enables continued operations after battle damage that would ground Japanese fighters. Hellcat design philosophy prioritizes pilot survival and mission continuation over maximum performance parameters. The third wave's destruction occurs in scattered engagements across a 50-mile area as lost Japanese formations encounter American combat air patrols. Individual Japanese aircraft face multiple Hellcat attackers without mutual support from other friendly units. The tactical isolation eliminates Japanese advantages in close maneuvering combat while maximizing American superiority in coordinated fighter operations. Vice Admiral Ozawa's fourth and final strike wave launches late in the morning with a little over 80 remaining aircraft. The formation includes mixed types from all operational carriers as squadron organization breaks down due to cumulative losses. Most experienced flight leaders have been shot down, leaving junior officers to command formations they've never led in combat. The psychological impact of watching 3 previous waves destroyed affects pilot performance before enemy contact occurs. The fourth wave encounters American defenders at peak readiness levels. Fighter directors have refined their interception procedures through 3 previous engagements. Hellcat squadrons coordinate their attacks with mathematical precision, assigning specific aircraft counts to each Japanese formation based on target priorities. The systematic approach eliminates chance factors that might permit Japanese penetration of American defenses. By 12:30 hours, Admiral Ozawa's air offensive collapses completely. For strike waves totaling roughly 320 aircraft achieve minimal damage against American ships while losing about 240 confirmed destroyed. USS South Dakota suffers the only significant damage from a single bomb hit that kills 27 crew members. The lopsided exchange rate reflects fundamental changes in naval aviation technology, tactics, and training that favor American forces decisively. The individual stories of destruction illustrate broader technological and tactical transformations. Ensign Yamamoto's Zero suffers engine failure after sustaining multiple 50 caliber hits during defensive maneuvering. He attempts emergency landing at Guam but encounters additional Hellcats patrolling the approach routes. The American fighters destroy his aircraft 500 feet above Orote Field runway. Yamamoto becomes one of many Japanese pilots shot down while attempting to land at friendly airfields. Lieutenant Vreishu completes his second sortie without adding confirmed aerial victories, but his morning tally remains 6 enemy aircraft destroyed in 8 minutes, a feat achieved with just 360 rounds. The Hellcat's stable gun platform characteristics enable accurate fire during high-G maneuvering that would disrupt aim in less stable aircraft. The destruction of Japanese land-based aircraft compounds Ozawa's carrier losses. American fighters sweep Guam, Rota, and Tinian airfields during the afternoon, destroying about 50 additional aircraft on the ground or during landing attempts. The elimination of shore-based aviation removes Ozawa's backup option for surviving carrier aircraft. Japanese pilots face destruction whether they remain with the fleet or attempt to reach island bases. Admiral Ozawa assesses his losses during the afternoon as surviving aircraft return to their carriers. His mobile fleet retains only about 100 operational aircraft from the original force. Pilot losses exceed aircraft losses as most shot-down aviators perish in ocean crashes. The Imperial Navy's training system cannot replace experienced pilots at rates necessary to reconstitute carrier air groups. The Battle of the Philippine Sea effectively ends Japanese capacity for large-scale carrier operations. The tactical lessons prove devastating for Japanese aviation doctrine. American fighter tactics emphasize coordinated attacks that overwhelm individual defensive measures. Japanese pilots trained for individual combat excellence cannot adapt to systematic American approaches that treat aerial warfare as coordinated team operations. The cultural emphasis on personal honor and individual skill becomes counterproductive against opponents who prioritize tactical cooperation over individual achievement. Task Force 58's defensive success demonstrates technological integration that transforms naval warfare. Radar detection provides early warning that enables optimal fighter positioning. Radio communications coordinate multi-squadron attacks in real time. Fighter director procedures assign targets and vectors with mathematical precision. The systematic approach minimizes the chance factors that previously determined aerial combat outcomes through individual pilot skill. The Hellcat's design philosophy validates American engineering approaches that prioritize mission effectiveness over performance optimization. The aircraft achieves adequate speed, climb rate, and maneuverability while excelling in survivability, range, and firepower. Japanese Zero design sacrifices structural strength and pilot protection for maximum agility. The different philosophies produce contrasting results when applied to 1944 combat conditions. Lieutenant Commander Takahashi survives the first wave engagement but crashes into the sea during his return flight. His Zero sustains engine damage from 50 caliber hits that gradually reduces power output. He attempts to reach friendly carriers but falls short by 12 miles. Interrogations of downed airmen during the campaign would later highlight shortcomings in pilot training and aircraft protection that U.S. forces were already exploiting. The psychological impact on surviving Japanese pilots proves as significant as material losses. Veterans of the engagement report American tactical superiority that renders traditional Japanese training obsolete. Zero pilots accustomed to turning dogfights find themselves unable to engage Hellcats that maintain energy advantage through disciplined attack profiles. The systematic nature of American tactics demoralizes Japanese airmen, who recognize their individual skills cannot overcome coordinated opposition. Fighter Squadron VF-16 finishes the day with one of the highest tallies among participating units, against minimal losses. The squadron's lopsided kill ratio reflects training standards that produce pilots capable of exploiting technological and tactical advantages. American flight training emphasizes gunnery accuracy, formation flying, and energy management. These skills prove decisive when applied through coordinated squadron tactics against individually skilled but tactically isolated opponents. The Great Marianas Turkey Shoot demonstrates the evolution of naval aviation from individual combat to systematic warfare. American victory results from integrated systems that coordinate radar detection, fighter direction, tactical procedures, and technological superiority. Japanese defeat reflects reliance on outdated concepts that emphasize individual skill over coordinated operations. The engagement marks the end of Zero dominance and the beginning of American air supremacy that will continue through war's end. Admiral Ozawa withdraws his remaining carriers during the night of June 19th to 20th, acknowledging the destruction of Japanese naval aviation. His mobile fleet retains surface combatants but lacks the air power necessary for offensive operations. The Imperial Navy will never again mount carrier-based strikes comparable to the Philippine Sea engagement. Japanese naval aviation transitions to defensive roles that prove inadequate against American technological and numerical superiority. The tactical innovations pioneered during the Turkey Shoot become standard American procedures for subsequent operations. Coordinated fighter direction, layered defensive positioning, and systematic target assignment prove superior to traditional air combat methods. These procedures enable smaller American forces to achieve decisive victories against larger Japanese formations throughout the war's final year. Vice Admiral Mitcher's Task Force 58 demonstrates the integration of technology, tactics, and training that defines modern naval warfare. The force coordinates roughly 900 aircraft from 15 carriers in defensive operations that achieve near-perfect efficiency. Japanese losses exceed 480 aircraft over 2 days, while American losses remain below 130 aircraft. The exchange ratio reflects systematic advantages that render individual pilot skill secondary to coordinated operations. The F6F Hellcat emerges from the Philippine Sea engagement as the dominant Pacific fighter. Its combination of speed, firepower, and survivability proves optimal for carrier operations against Japanese opposition. The aircraft's forgiving flight characteristics enable rapid pilot training that produces adequate performers in months rather than years. American industrial capacity delivers Hellcats faster than Japan can train replacement pilots for its existing aircraft. Ensign Nakamura's Judy dive bomber contributes to the day's statistical imbalance when Hellcats from Essex destroy his aircraft during its bomb run approach. His 551-pound bomb falls harmlessly into the sea as his burning bomber follows moments later. The engagement lasts 40 seconds from initial contact to aircraft destruction. American pilots report no difficulty in tracking and engaging the Japanese bomber despite its evasive maneuvering. The Battle of the Philippine Sea establishes patterns that will characterize Pacific air warfare through 1945. American technological superiority combines with tactical innovation and superior training to achieve decisive victories. Japanese responses emphasize individual courage and traditional methods that prove inadequate against systematic American approaches. The engagement demonstrates that industrial capacity and technological development determine air warfare outcomes more than pilot skill and fighting spirit. Fighter pilots of VF-2 engage Japanese formations throughout the afternoon, destroying on the order of 30 enemy aircraft while losing 2 Hellcats to anti-aircraft fire. The squadron's success reflects training programs that produce pilots capable of exploiting Hellcat advantages while minimizing exposure to enemy defensive fire. American pilot retention rates enable accumulation of combat experience that improves squadron effectiveness over time. The destruction of Admiral Ozawa's Air Force eliminates Japanese carrier aviation as an effective combat force. Surviving Japanese carriers operate with reduced air groups that lack sufficient strength for offensive operations. American forces achieve air superiority throughout the Central Pacific that enables amphibious operations against increasingly isolated Japanese garrisons. The Turkey shoot marks the beginning of systematic American advancement toward the Japanese home islands. Lieutenant Vrashu's 6 confirmed kills represent individual excellence applied within systematic tactical frameworks. His success results from superior aircraft, effective training, and coordinated squadron operations that create favorable engagement conditions. Japanese pilots of equivalent skill face technological and tactical disadvantages that prevent effective response to American fighter tactics. The engagement demonstrates that individual ability requires systematic support to achieve maximum effectiveness. The Great Marianas Turkey shoot concludes with American achievement of complete air superiority over the Philippine Sea. Japanese naval aviation suffers losses that eliminate its capacity for strategic operations. The Imperial Navy retains surface ships but lacks air cover necessary for offensive actions against American forces. The engagement establishes American naval dominance that will continue through the war's conclusion. Task Force 58 steams toward subsequent operations carrying the war's most effective naval aviation force. The Hellcat has proven its dominance through systematic destruction of Japanese air power. Tomorrow will bring additional engagements as American forces exploit their technological and tactical advantages. The age of Japanese air superiority ends in the Philippine Sea with the systematic hunting of Imperial Navy aviators by superior American fighters and tactics.